No doubt it is logical that we celebrate the Holy Family after the birth of Jesus. And most all of us are in our homes have a manger scene, creche, if you will. And they're all the same. Basically, you have a kneeling Mary, obviously Jesus in a manger, usually Joseph standing, looking over. And then of all this kind of a peaceable barn, if you will, all the animals and everybody seems to be cooperating in the scene along with the Magi as well. And we're used to that. And on this, the Holy Family, we can look upon it and say, that's nice and that's pretty, and it is. However, our readings today are so different. They tell us not to look at it as if it is pretty. Actually, the readings today are filled with the most working verbs I've ever heard of readings to have. No time to relax. Jesus has just been born. There is no time to relax. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. Now is the time to get to work because things have to be done. Because now we are a family. And a family requires a lot of work. So, I'm going to talk about a family, if you want to look at it, the basic unit, mom, dad, kids, we can, and stay there, that's fine. But we can expand this and expand this and expand this. So, however in your mind you want to work this out, that's fine. But we start, and it's got to work with the basic unit. And we're going to do this basic unit, and then we can see that it is truly a model of us to live and to be good Christ-like people. Okay, let's start with the family. The book of Sirach. Okay. There's a relationship among a family. And basically 3 words repeat throughout this first reading. Honor, pray, and revere. So, if we are to be part of a family, we must honor one another, we must pray for one another, and we must revere one another. We are there for one another. If I am part of the family, if I am part of a family, my job is to make sure that I honor, pray, and revere this family that is around me. Whether I like it or not. It doesn't matter. My feelings here do not matter in this regard. I am not going to honor if somebody honors back to me. I'm not going to revere unless somebody reveres back to me. I'm not going to pray unless somebody prays for me. No, it doesn't work that way. It has nothing to do with what is coming into me. It has everything to do with what I am going to do to the others. So that is work. So the moment we're in a family, we're in relationship. And the moment that we're in relationship, it is what we can do to help this relationship. And the best way to do that is to honor one another, respect, revere, and to pray. If we do that, as a family, some amazing things can happen. And once again, if we expand that analogy and expand this whole thing, we can look on it even as a church, and even as the world. It is that important. So, okay, basic unit, family, honor, revere, and pray. The gospel gets a little rough and a little spooky. And here's what I mean. Okay, we pick up the action here in this gospel reading where the Magi have just left. Okay. Joseph and Mary and Jesus are sleeping. And suddenly an angel comes in onto the dream of Joseph. Rise, wake up now. Wake up now. And flee. Don't just take out leisurely. Flee. Run for your lives. Well, you would think that if this child is that important, you would think you would get some help from God. And maybe they were. The help from God is an angel saying, run fast. because Herod is out to kill this child, run for your lives and go to Egypt. And that's what Joseph had to do. Took Mary, took Jesus off to Egypt. Why? Because we as Christians don't like to look at this. And this is kind of spooky, because we as Christians kind of fall into a trap. Oh, let's all love one another, be kind to one another, and it'll all do this and that. No. What can happen is that there are forces that are out there that are willing to hurt the family. Whether we like it or not, there are forces that can hurt the family. The family must be protected at all costs. And this is important as well. The angel knew this and says, Joseph, you've got to go now, because there is something out there that is trying to break this family up day one. And you must protect your family. And that is something that we have to deal with as well, whether we like it or not. But the news is full of families where violence occurs, ugly violence, where the family is broken up. And according to this here, it can be from just the basic level of just living in a home with somebody that is violent, all the way up to a head of a state who says, I am so concerned about my own power, I am so concerned about my own prestige and my political standing that I am willing to do anything to protect it. And if that includes killing people, and if that includes killing people of a family, then so be it. Therefore, we have to realize then that if we are part of a family, there are forces that are trying to break us up. And we have to be aware of that. Even so, because later on, after Herod dies and that threat is over, the angel comes, wake up. Take the child and his mother and go to Israel. Go back home. However, when Joseph got over there, he didn't like who was in charge. He says, this is not too nice. This Archelaus was ruling over Judea. He was afraid to go back there. So Joseph went to Nazareth to protect the family. And that is important. It is important to look after one another. And when we're in relationship, that must be guarded. And so, therefore, we don't sit by idly and gaze at the pretty Holy Family. Instead, the Holy Family commands us to watch out, to take care of one another. But you say, wow, this is a big thing. There's a lot going on here. How can we do all of this? Well, St. Paul to the rescue. The second reading. Okay. So we've got a lot of action words so far. Pray, revere, honor, flee, wake up. Okay. Now, how do we become a good family member then? How do we stay in the family? And how do we keep the family together? It's all about what you wear. It is about fashion. It is about dress. We dress for success. Brothers and sisters, put on. Command. Don't think about it. Don't open your closet and say, well, maybe this, maybe that. St. Paul says, put on. As God's chosen ones, that's us, heartfelt, here we go, compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, bearing with one another, forgiving one another. Every day when we wake up, the moment we wake up and realize we are still alive and we got to deal with the world, we got to put on these 5 things. All the time. All the time. And no taking them off. of which we do throughout the day. Because as we deal with one another, as we deal with one another as a family, we get on each other's nerves, and we get in each other's way, and after a while we start to sweat, and it starts to get a little hard for us, and before you know it, we start taking things off. We throw off kindness, or we throw off humility. Patience seems to be one of the first ones we just throw off, or we just don't even want to put it on. We don't want to put any of that on. We bear with one another, forgive. We don't do, we just start tossing things off. And the moment we do that, we screw up the family. Because, once again, it's about me and not about you. It's about what I want, not about what the family needs. And I start taking these virtues away, and it's going to lead to some problems. And we'll get to that in just a second. But that's not all. That's 7 things I mentioned. But there's one other. Over all of these, St. Paul says, over all of these, put on love. And that is the bond of perfection. Then we will go forth dressed appropriately and dressed to face the world so that we can honor, revere, pray, and protect. It is those virtues that give us the ability to be a good family member. Now, for our sake, we have to realize and we have to kind of reflect on those virtues of which we do not put on. All of us put on one of these at least. But to put on all 8, well, we might need some work. And here's where you can see where you're not dressed right. And this is using a basic thing. The dinner table. When we're around a table where the family is together, bring everyone around a table and sit everyone down. It is at the dinner table that some of the most wonderful moments occur and some of the most worst moments occur. Because if I come to the dinner table and I have no patience on, or I have no bearing with one another on, if I come to the dinner table angry and mad and upset, you better believe that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that the family knows that I am upset, and I'm going to do everything I can to get the rest of the family upset as well. Why? Because I am not dressed. And I dare come to the table of the family not properly attired, and therefore the family suffers. All right. That's a lot. That's a whole bunch. And that's just from the manger scene. But it is important. And my point here is that we do not look upon the manger scene as some static thing that we look upon and say, that's nice and pretty, and then move out into the world to do our own thing. Absolutely not. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph today teach us that it is important to take care of the relationship and to protect it. And we do that by being virtuous. And now, let us today look at our wardrobe, see how you're dressed. As we make our way through the day, make sure that we are properly dressed so that we can face whatever life brings at us and face it as Christ would and as that Holy Family would as well.